What is going on, FA Nation? Jonathan Pember here with James Grande, bringing you another edition of Three Point Play. For those of you not familiar with Three Point Play, here we take three topics. James takes one side, I take the other. We debate, providing 3 points while we think our side is the winner. And then we ask you guys, let us know who you think won. James, how are things going with you?
Good, man. Happy to be back in the mix. Happy that sports may be coming back. Big news on baseball today. We all know we're in the full force with football. Basketball is coming back. So I mean, everything is seemingly getting back to normal, except COVID-19, which is not getting back to normal. It is staying. It is staying. Especially down here in Florida, it's become a hot spot. But I'm just happy sports are finally coming back, and there's plans in place, John, and it's good to see. Shout out Adam Silver, who really paved the way for I think the rest of the sports world here.
Yeah, Rob Manfred not exactly paving the way for the rest of the sports
Right.
world, but Adam Silver definitely got his league in order, and Gary Bettman as well. I
True.
know the NHL official plans haven't announced, but they seemingly have their things all in order to return as well. So you're right. Sports coming back has been great. Hopefully, baseball soon, whether it's 60 games, 70 games, 100 games, whatever. We'll see if we do get that sport to come back, but. I want to turn our focus here to football because you and I did a best ball draft the other night here. We've been really going along with these best ball drafts over at Best Ball 10s. Justin Breland holds his best ball drafts over at RT Sports. You can get involved in those by following the Fantasy Lawn Twitter account. We make the announcements when those drafts are. I host mine every Wednesday and Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern. So you can definitely message me if you want to get involved in those. But you were part of the draft we did on Wednesday. And that's going to be our first topic of discussion here. Who had the better draft? James, why don't you start it off and tell us why you think your draft was the best?
So point one, we were talking about a little before we hopped on air, and look, running back, right? There are so many question marks. It is slim pickings after the first couple rounds, just considering how they're flying off the board. So I think I did a very good job. I went very top heavy at the running back position. My first three picks, I picked out of the 12 slot. I picked on the wheel. I went Kenyon Drake and Josh Jacobs back to back. And then in the third round, I followed up with David Johnson, who you just alluded to before we got on air again. The Texans are going to make David Johnson a three-down back. They're going to feature him in the offense like he was featured in Arizona a few years back when he was probably the consensus number one or two fantasy player out there. So I think I went with three bell cows, and we don't really have that very much in fantasy. I like your group of running backs at the top, but I think there are a few more question marks. Like Chris Carson, we know he has a fumbling problem, and there's a contingency plan in Carlos Hyde. And then Cam Akers, I actually love Cam Akers, but there hasn't been any official all right, he's going to win the job over Darrell Henderson, or he is going to become a three-down back. We just don't know that as of now. So I think there are a little more question marks. Number two, I think I have elite depth at wide receiver. My first receiver off the board in the fourth round, I took Amari Cooper, which earlier I was posting a lot of ADP questions on my Twitter. Amari Cooper was in the top 10. He was being drafted as a top 10 wide receiver early. Obviously, the Cowboys went and took a wide receiver in the draft, and that I think took some people by surprise, considering they have Michael Gallup on the other side of the field. They have Ezekiel Elliott, so they have a lot of weapons. I think bringing in a rookie as your third receiver is not going to really impact Cooper. And in a best ball, we know Amari Cooper can go off and literally win you weeks in best balls. Followed by Keenan Allen as my two. T.Y. Hilton is my third receiver. Obviously, if he stays healthy, he could be a 100 reception guy. Julian Edelman, I think, is in a really good spot. I think he's going to be relied on heavily by Jared Stidham, Sterling Shepard, and then Preston Williams. I think the depth at receiver is probably the best from this draft. And I think something that you did, obviously getting Julio at 21, I think was your second round pick was as good as it gets, because you don't see that ever. You don't get Julio Jones at 21 as like the fifth or sixth receiver off the board. And I love DK Metcalf as your two, but I think there are some question marks again after those two those two are cemented as your 1 and 2, and then I think there are a lot of question marks. And then I don't think my quarterbacks and my tight ends were the strongest, and I do admit that. I think Jared Goff is a safe in a 12-team best ball. I think, a guy who's thrown for 5,000 plus yards in back-to-back seasons, he's going to throw 600 times again, especially if there are question marks at receiver or at running back. So I like Goff. I think there's upside of Drew Lock as my second quarterback. And then I have Hunter Henry upside at tight end. And then some stability with Greg Olsen. So I think I have a pretty good mixture of stability upside at quarterback, tight end. And my only downfall, which I have noted on my Twitter, I've noted to you, is that when I went to select my second defense, before you crap on me for this, there was a glitch in the system. I went to click Seattle, who somehow landed to you 7 picks later. And I'm just looking at my draft. 3 picks go by, and I said, why do I have John Ross as my final pick? I didn't select the second defense because now I have John Ross apparently as my final pick. So other than the John Ross pick, I'm very confident that this team is going to finish at the top of the standings.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think the draft is, the worst of the group. That's for sure. You've made some picks that I certainly like. I do like Edelman, where you got him in round 7. I've talked about that a lot. How you're getting what's likely going to be, 130 plus target guy round 7, round 8 of fantasy drafts. Best ball is PPR. You're starting 3 receivers as well, and again, it's best ball. So him and Stidham are going to definitely connect at times throughout the season where he can kind of blow up. So I do like your receiver depth there a lot as well. The running backs for me with you, I like Josh Jacobs. I think that's a great play. I'm big on David Johnson. I question Kenyon Drake a little bit. I know he looked good, coming in at the end of last year, with that offense. But, that offense did go ahead and acquire a DeAndre Hopkins. They are more of a passing attack downfield. Is Kenyon Drake going to be able to return that type of, first round value is something, I question a bit, but, I guess we'll have to wait and see there. My draft, reasons why I think I probably had the best draft here. Number one, you talked about some of the value that I had. Yes, I got Julio at 21. I also got Ezekiel Elliott at 4. And I mean, I know we're talking about a top 4 pick, like how good could it be? But I mean, we're talking about our draft here in a season where running back depth is so bad.
Right.
I thought for sure Elliott was going to go, 3, and I would be looking at, having to take a Dalvin Cook who could be holding out, or, an Alvin Kamara who, is in a timeshare. He's not going to be able to carry the full load. We see him at times that'll be a little injury prone. The running backs sort of after that top 3 group all sort of have a little bit of their own flaws, whether they're not pass catching backs, Joe Mixon's and the Bengals. So I thought I was going to have to make that decision, but I wasn't. I lucked out. Elliott, to me, I love the Cowboys offense this year. I mean, they're going to score a ton of points. They scored a lot of points last year. Their defense let them down. I think they're going to be in a great position to score touchdowns, something that we've seen Elliott do a lot of. And, of course, he also is involved in the passing attack. So to get Elliott at 4 for me, I felt like that was a steal, which is big of a steal somebody can get within the top 4 picks. Julio, again, a guy who could be the number 1 overall receiver in fantasy. He's got that type of pedigree, has that type of upside. They're going to throw the ball a lot in Atlanta. So, I felt my first 2 picks, really, of any of the other teams, I feel like I probably made out the best. Again, looking at, Christian McCaffrey, Melvin Gordon was what went 1-2 for the team that went 1. Saquon Barkley, George Kittle, okay, but tight ends,
right.
Okay. Michael Thomas, Todd Gurley could have some questions. With Gurley, obviously, Kamara, Fournette. Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones. I'm not big on Aaron Jones this year as it is, and who knows if Dalvin Cook holds out. Joe Mixon has some upside. Obviously, we like Travis Kelce a lot, so Howard Bender there, Team 7. I'm not going to hate on it too much, but I think I'd rather have Zeke and Julio in those spots. Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders, Tyreek Hill, Austin Eckler, Chubb, Godwin, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams. Bold play going wide receiver there in a running back week class. And then, of course, you did Kenny and Drake, Josh Jacobs. And I said, like Jacobs, a little unsure on Drake. So I think Zeke and Jones probably the strongest top 2. Reason number 2 why I'm a big fan of my team here is getting Dak Prescott, actually. Now, I know in best ball, It's like, mix and match your quarterbacks, give you an idea, an opportunity to, have one guy, have the most possibility to accumulate points. Dak was the number 2 overall quarterback last year. Yes, Mahomes was injured a little bit, so that likely, cost him some fantasy points. But we're talking about an offense in Dallas, which is going to score points. They added CeeDee Lamb. I'm expecting Michael Gallup to actually leap Amari Cooper and be the number 1 receiver this season. But Cooper, in his own right, still going to be a 1,000-yard guy. Like we saw Gallup be a 1,000-yard guy last season. Randall Cobb in Dallas last year had 55 catches and 800 yards. CeeDee Lamb could very easily fit into that whole thing. So I'm getting Dak Prescott in round 7. And I don't really need another backup quarterback, in my opinion. Like, I need a guy to help replace with the bye weeks, but I'm feeling that Dak is going to put up top fantasy numbers week in, week out. So getting a guy of that value in round 7 to me, I think having Dak puts me at a big advantage over a lot of the field at the quarterback position. He can run the ball a little bit. Last year he took a step back in rushing touchdowns, but rushing touchdowns for a quarterback, especially like him in the red zone, he likes to take those in, so that number could jump. So getting Dak Prescott as to solidify my quarterback position, I think, is number 2. Why I have a better team than you. Jared Goff, for all of his, ability to pass the football. I think he led football in pass attempts last year.
Yep.
He also put out some single-digit fantasy weeks for you. So, I know you're hoping for Drew Lock. They surrounded him with a lot of fantasy potential and offensive weapons around him. But, year 2 for him, how is he going to develop? And then Jarrett Stidham's first year in New England, when they didn't really do much to get him any talent on the offensive side. They're just hoping guys like Mohamed Sanu come back healthy, Edelman's healthy, and N'Keal Harry can, take a step up in year 2. They didn't do too much to give him some weapons. So I think the Dak attack there in Dallas gives me the advantage. And number 3, we talked about some of the depth, and I'm talking more so some high-risk, high-reward plays that I got here. Rob Gronkowski in round 8, A.J. Green in round 10. I mean, yeah, A.J. Green burned a lot of people last year, but by all accounts, he's healthy and ready to go. I mean, yes, he has Joe Burrow as a rookie quarterback, but Burrow's coming off a year in which he threw 60 touchdowns in a college football season. Cincinnati's going to, chuck it with Burrow there. If Green is healthy like they say he is, yeah, he's a year removed from playing football, but, I don't think he's lost it completely. I think he's going to come back, and him and Boyd are going to actually be, pretty solid receivers there. So I like getting A.J. Green in round 10. We talk, how you like Matt Breida. We're big Breida fans. He's a home run hitter. Jordan Howard has, really been unimpressive. Like, he's been a solid running back, but, there's a reason why a lot of us are big fans of Breida's potential. He needs to stay on the field, though. Again, injury histories with Breida, Green, and Gronkowski are major concerns. But if those guys are healthy and on the field, they all have tremendous upside to be, top potential 10 scoring players. Maybe not Breida, but top 15 potential for Breida if he can stay healthy and he overtakes Jordan Howard. So I like sort of the risk guys that I took there. And of course, getting a guy like Devonta Freeman, who doesn't have a team, but he could find himself in a situation with camps go on, guys get hurt, could find himself in a spot where he's able to produce. I got him in round 18, where I feel like there's no real risk there. There's only sort of reward potential upside in best ball. So I think the guys that I took chances on all have the potential to really produce some solid numbers once they get on the field.
Yeah, I definitely think, we haven't seen AJ Green play, right? So we don't know what we're going to get. And, for his age in the NFL, he is a little advanced. I do agree. I do think you did snag a lot of solid value. I mentioned it before we got on. I like your running back depth. I think there are question marks, but you're really the only team on the board that has 4 solidified roles, at least.
And I acknowledge the Chris Carson thing, and I handcuffed him with Carlos Hyde. So, right. If something happens there, I feel protected.
I think I will say my best value could be Alexander Mattison, who I took in the 10th round. Who knows what happens with Dalvin Cook? We've seen running backs hold out. And even if Dalvin Cook pulled a Melvin Gordon and I got 4 or 5 weeks to start of the year for Alex Mattison, getting 20 plus touches a game, in a best ball, it's worth it. Because then I have, I also have 3 other bell cows on my roster. I still think that there's a chance Leonard Fournette gets traded, uh,
Okay.
just based on what his relationship has and what kind of everyone's relationship in Jacksonville has become. It's been very moldy and
Mhm.
stale this offseason. And I took both of Fournette's backups, who, just in the draft. I mean, Justin, our very own Justin Vreeland loves Raquel Armstead, and we saw flashes of him as Fournette's backup last year. So if Fournette were to get dealt, I think I'm in a pretty good position. Low risk, high reward end of my draft as well.
Yeah. Again, I think best balls are always fun. You never know how those end up turning out, but I think we definitely had some solid teams, and we drafted at different parts of the draft as well. So you're getting an idea by looking at the drafts. What it's like to draft on the wheel, what it's like to draft earlier. I've had the privilege of drafting pretty much across the board so far. I think I've done 6 of these best ball drafts now. And picks 4 and 5 have certainly been my favorite so far. I think as we kind of approach different draft strategies, it'll be interesting to see again as we get close to the NFL season how some of these ADPs adjust and people realizing like, hey, I need to take running backs,
Right.
and how quickly these guys all go. So, you guys out there, FA Nation, we'll tweet out the draft board. Tell us whose draft you like, whose draft you don't like. Who do you think has the better team between Grande and myself? Moving on to topic number 2 here. You and I, obviously big basketball fans, the NBA playoffs quickly approaching. So with that said, we want to go ahead and who we think will make the NBA finals that aren't, of course, the Clippers, the Lakers, the obvious teams here, the Bucks, the favorites to go ahead and make the NBA finals. We want to take maybe our more of our long shot or our sleeper teams here to make the NBA finals. James, you started off the last one, so I'm going to start off this one here. No homerism involved, okay? But I am, of course, going to go with the Boston Celtics.
Of
Uh,
course. Of
yeah, of
course.
course, of course. No homerism. Nothing to do with the fact that I live just outside this city of Boston. But I'm going to go here with reason number 1 being the Eastern Conference is the weaker conference, right?
Right.
The top team is by far the Milwaukee Bucks. That's fine. They have the best player and Giannis and the Greek Freak there and Middleton, and that team itself is going to be a tough out regardless of who you play. But after that, it's pretty wide open, really, in the standings. This whole bubble thing is certainly going to throw a little bit of a monkey wrench into some things. Teams like the 76ers, who a lot of teams are high on, were the worst road team in the NBA. People were wondering, hey, if they get into a playoff series and they don't have home court advantage, is Philadelphia going to crumble? Well, now they're technically on the road, but everybody's sort of on the road here. There's no away crowd. There's no home crowd. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how they play. You have the defending champions in the Toronto Raptors. I like the Raptors team. I think they surprised a lot of people. Many expected, with Kawhi Leonard being gone, that they were going to sort of revert and potentially be one of the weaker teams in the league. But they had a lot of guys step up. Pascal Siakam had really developed. We have Norman Powell, Fred VanVleet, all those guys kind of developed, but they're young, they're untested, they're unproven as being, the leaders of those teams. They were all great role players on their championship last year, but again, a little bit of an unknown. The Pacers, they have their question marks. The Nets, are going to sneak in barely. They have potentially their problems if they make the playoffs. To me, the Eastern Conference is just a weaker conference to roll through. And the Celtics, I think, have at least in that realm, an easier path to making to the finals. Because again, who knows how these teams are going to come off this layoff? Some could be rusty, some could be out of sync, and anything can really happen. I just like the path that they have to go through versus a Western Conference team. Number 2 is the arrival of Jason Tatum. Obviously, with no Kyrie Irving on the team this year, it allowed some of the development to happen with guys like Jaylen Brown and some younger players. But Jason Tatum in the second half of this season absolutely exploded. Over the last 20 games before they ended up stopping the season, he averaged 28 points per game. He shot 50% from the field, 46% from 3. And it wasn't just the scoring, 7.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, almost 2 steals and a block per game. He's literally giving you it across the floor. There's a lot of conversation about top young players, top potential MVP players. Jason Tatum is carrying the Celtics. There's a reason, why he was a lottery pick A handful of seasons ago, I felt Kyrie Irving's presence kind of actually depressed his ability to develop. We saw during his rookie year, during the playoffs, when Irving was out, him and Jaylen Brown carried the Celtics almost into the NBA Finals. Took Game 7 against LeBron in Cleveland for them before they ended up losing. And that was largely on the back of Jason Tatum in that game. So the fact that Jason Tatum is arriving, we know that you need those elite talents to go ahead and kind of elevate those teams and make that next leap. So for me, Jason Tatum's arrival, I'm going to say arrival, is the reason why they're, or should be a clear favorite to potentially make the finals from the East. And then lastly, I'm going to go with the supporting cast. As much as we talk about, Jason Tatum, there is Jaylen Brown, who, is kind of being overshadowed for some reason by Jason Tatum. When Jaylen Brown himself this season has really come on to have a breakout year on his own. He's averaging over 20 points per game, shooting 38% from the three-point line, 49% from the field goal percentage. He's been a really strong defender. His rebounding this year, 6.4 rebounds per game. So you're talking about, again, the two young nucleus players of Boston all upping their game pretty much tremendously this year. And Brown's doing it a little bit more quietly. But then you add in the likes of Gordon Hayward, who we've seen at stretches this year look like the old Gordon Hayward. We've seen Kemba Walker, again, lead this team at times when called upon. Marcus Smart is obviously the glue guy, the defensive presence there. Daniel Tice, we've seen come in and actually be an effective center presence. A lot of people wondered what would happen when Al Horford left. Well, Daniel Tice, though a little bit undersized, has really stepped up to be a great shot blocker, a rebounder, a solid presence in the middle there. So a lot of people question the bench depth for Boston during the regular season, but come the playoffs, you're not playing 10 guys, you're playing 7. And the Celtics have a strong unit of 7 guys that they can roll out there that I think is going to be largely tough to match if you're looking at a starting 5 of Kemba Walker, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward, Daniel Tice, Marcus Smart off the bench, and then throw another young guy out there, if you want to kind of, make that 7th man. The Celtics depth is going to be a huge piece to that. So number 1, the Eastern Conference. Number 2, Jason Tatum's arrival. And number 3, the core group there in Boston, I think, gives them the advantage in the East.
I'm glad you changed it from arriving to arrival, because Jason Tatum has definitely arrived in a massive way. I do like the Celtics as a sleeper. And this is, of course, I think if you talk to 20 people, I think 20 people would have different variations of Bucks versus one of the LA teams as their favorites. So of course this is our sleeper to get in. And I was thinking about going Eastern Conference as well, but I'm going to go with a team that is plus 3,000 to win the NBA championship. Since the odds have come out, since we found out they're going to be in the bubble, and that's the Denver Nuggets. And obviously the Nuggets are in the tougher conference. But my first point will be that Denver is one of 7 teams, Boston is included in this as well, one of 7 teams to have a 500 or better record against teams of 500 or better records. So teams like the Raptors, who have a losing record actually against better opponents, they beat up on really bad teams. I think there are the 76ers, another one, beat up on bad teams and beat up on teams at home. The Nuggets are only 1-2 against the Lakers. The third game, 120-116 overtime loss. So, I mean, it has been splitting hairs against the Lakers in their series, and it's 1-1 against the Clippers. They won in LA, and then LA won in Denver. So there's no real advantage between them. So point 1, I think Denver has risen to the occasion of playing the elite teams in the NBA. Number 2, elite defense and slow pace equals playoff recipe. We know Denver plays at a snail's pace. They're 29th in the league in pace. We know how the NBA operates. It's run during the regular season, and then come the postseason, it's just slow. It is possession by possession basketball. It's grind out games. And I think Denver's defense, they have elite defenders at times. Gary Harris, we know, is one of the best perimeter defenders in basketball. Him and Marcus Smart are both 2 of the better at their respective jobs. Nikola Jokic, when he's not super foul happy, is an elite interior defender. Jeremy Grant, an elite defender off the bench with a rested Paul Millsap. So I think the style that Denver plays at bodes extremely well for postseason. And we're talking about two LA teams top 10 in pace. So they're going to have to drastically change their styles. And obviously, they're led by LeBron and Kawhi, respectively. So they know how to. They both have won multiple championships. But maybe everyone else does not. So I think Denver already playing at the pace that is going to be throughout the playoffs is a bonus. And number three, exactly what you said about Jason Tatum. Stars rise in the postseason. We've seen it forever. We have rarely seen singular players lead teams to championships. It's usually duos. Last one I can remember was probably Dirk, right? When Dirk single-handedly.
You could say Kawhi did it last year.
Kawhi last year. Dirk. I mean, he also had Fred VanVleet playing out of his mind last year. He had the most.
The role players helped them, but I would say in terms of
star power.
Yeah, star power. Kawhi was the guy.
So we'll go Kawhi, and then before that, probably Dirk, because the other Spurs teams were pretty loaded.
I love Jason Terry, huh?
I mean, Jason Terry was very fun to watch jet down the court, but, Jason Terry was also not at his best in those Dallas years. But I mean, look, we have exactly what we want in a slow-paced atmosphere. A center, an offensive-minded center in Nikola Jokic, who, you and I have argued all year pretty much, all throughout probably his career. Throughout our time together at Fantasy Alarm, we have argued about Nikola Jokic, and he looks like the best player in the league sometimes, and he looks like he doesn't know where he is at other times. But this is a guy who led Denver in points per game, 20.2, rebounds per game, 10.2, and assists at 6.9 assists per game. So he led those three categories throughout the year. Also, in 14 postseason games, and this kind of brings me full circle to my point, I mean, this is what you want. You want the star in a slow-paced game. 14 games in last year's postseason, Jokic averaged 25, 13, and 8.4 assists with a steal and a block per game on 50% shooting. He was the man in the postseason for Denver last year. I think the supporting cast is better this year with the addition of Jeremy Grant, with a healthy Jamal Murray, with a healthy Gary Harris. Will Barton has been really good after a pedestrian year last year. And Paul Millsap is healthy, and he gets all this rest. So I think everything kind of lines up for who currently is probably slept on, and they're the third seed right now in the Western Conference. Again, do I think anyone beats the teams in LA? Not sure. I've been a Team Clipper all year long. I thought the Clippers, when they signed and traded who they got, was the team to beat. The Lakers have two of the five best players in the world as well. So it's going to be hard to beat. I think Denver has the makings. Obviously, they don't get to play in the atmosphere in Denver for an advantage, but they would have had to play 4 games on the road in LA anyway, because they're not surpassing either one of those teams. But I think if there was a sneaky team, I think Denver could potentially take out one or two of the LA teams this year.
So I have 2 points to make here. One, I didn't hear you mention Michael Porter Jr. anywhere.
I guess, you know that we are stands.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I thought we were going to get.
I mean, he can't get minutes in a 20-point win. And you just talked about rotation shrinking. Do I think Michael Porter can spark any team in the NBA? Plug in Michael Porter to any offense and he'll ignite them. Yes. But Denver is loaded without Michael Porter. They don't play him during the regular season. Shouts to Michael Porter because we love him. But until there's some people out of Denver or he's out of Denver, it's just not happening.
It's too bad because he's good.
Porter
is really good. And number 2, have you seen Nikola Jokic recently?
Super skinny.
Apparently, he's lost 50 pounds. I don't know the actual number, but if you look at him and then look at him before the break, body swap somewhere.
Is that a concern? Is that a concern to you, or because he's always been poor conditioned? What happens if it's a positive weight loss?
So here's how I look at it. One, I'm okay with weight loss as long as it doesn't come at the expense of strength loss.
Right.
Because now if he's a center down low, but he's too thin and he's getting beat up, he's getting pushed around and he's less effective because he doesn't have a little bit of the weight that he had before. Then I have a problem with that because I don't want him to be an outside player necessarily, and I would still like him to be a guy that can get down low, get the boards, get the post plays, and do that. So that is something that I certainly think we have to. Bears watching a little bit, but I saw the photos of him, and a lot of people were like, well, if you could do that in 2 months in the offseason, why don't you come to camp? So who knows what happened there. But Nuggets aren't a bad long shot. I think obviously if the Pelicans can somehow get their way in, more for the story than I think the actual ability of them succeeding. But I mean, there is a lot of young talent there, that could potentially, young legs can catch some guys off guard. I know, again, there's still a long way to go, but they would be kind of an exciting team. And then, of course, if Portland can somehow, get it all together, a guy like Lillard can carry a team. You talk about singular stars. Lillard has that upside as well. So some other teams that are kind of worth paying attention to.
I mean, you want to talk about depth. If Portland, if they do play and they do get in, I mean, we're talking about Yusuf Nurkic coming back for what, a 20-minute span, but even 20 minutes of Yusuf Nurkic could be. We've seen that's all we got out of Yusuf Nurkic for the last 5 years anyway, right?
18 and him and Hassan Whiteside playing 18 minutes a night are going to be infuriating for our DFS plays, but I mean, that's what's going to happen. So
and Zach Collins. Let's throw Zach Collins, who was their starting power forward, mix him in with Melo for another, and you can slide Melo to his traditional small forward and pair him with Ariza. I mean, talk about depth. You can go 8 deep with the Blazers, they can play 8 deep with anybody in the league. Right. I mean, they obviously, we're not comparing LeBron and Lillard or Lillard and Kawhi, but I mean, there are times where Lillard looks like the best player in the league when,
he had what, 50 points in 4 straight games or something like that.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, I think the Blazers have a better shot of an upset than the Pelicans, but I think the Pelicans are way more fun because, I mean, they run at a ridiculous pace. They play with Zion and Lonzo just running and Ingram just literally sprinting up and down the floor like it's a recreational basketball game at the Y where nobody's getting back on defense anymore because they're too tired. That's the Pelicans are fun, but I think I'd prefer the Blazers, and I think that they have a better chance at the upset.
Yep. All right, so you out there, FA Nation, who do you think has the best chance to make it to the finals that aren't obviously going to be the Bucks, the Clippers, or the Lakers? James thinks Nuggets. I say the Celtics for the Eastern Conference there. Let us know who you agree with, or if you have a different pick, let us know as well. Lastly, James, here we'll have a little bit of a fun topic like we do to close out these 3-point plays. You have recently become a coffee drinker after years of never having coffee. However, the debate that you and I have had is that you're actually not a fan of iced coffee. You much prefer the hot coffee. For me, I am all about the iced coffee life. I let off the last one. Why don't you tell us, as a new coffee drinker, give us why you're a bigger fan of the hot coffee than the iced coffee.
So I am definitely a new coffee drinker. It's only been 5-6 months, but I have dabbled in both worlds, and there are definitely you never would think so, right? You hear coffee and you're like, oh, iced, hot, it's all the same. 2 complete different worlds. It is night and day. So number one, this is why hot coffee is better. I mean, I don't think it's even a debate, but we're sitting here and I'll let you have your fun afterwards. So with hot coffee, right? Not everyone's going to drink their coffee right away. I mean, a lot of people are drinking it over a period of time. And sometimes, hot coffee gets a little warm or gets cold, or maybe you want to save it for later. Throw it in the fridge. You can then put that coffee right there in the microwave, heat it up, good to go, fresh, new, like it's never, like you just made it out of the pot. Iced coffee, once it goes, it's gone. It is watered down. It's already, full of ice. Once that ice melts, there's no re-icing your coffee. You can't then say, you know what? Let me put it in the ice machine. That doesn't exist. So point one, hot coffee can be revitalized, rejuvenated, brought back to life. Iced coffee, it simply can't. Point two. So I think this is going to be a hot topic of debate, and it's holding coffee during particular seasons of weather, right? So in cold weather, you love the feeling of warm coffee on your hands. You think like hot chocolate, you think coffee. Oh, I haven't experienced that because now I moved to Florida. There's no such thing as cold weather, so I'm going to have to go back to New York just to experience this. But the thought process is the same, because I've lived in New York and have drinking hot chocolate my whole life. Love the feeling in my hands, and the cup stays nice and sturdy, right? Now you go to the warm weather where it is really nice to have a nice cold beverage in your hand, right? Ice. Oh, the ice feels great. You put it on your forehead, you put it on your hand. But then, John, something happens to that cup because it's hot out. There's sun. You're baking in the sun. You're getting a farmer's tan. And while you're getting that farmer's tan, your cup is sweating. You are sweating. Your cup is sweating. Now the cup condensation is dripping. You're going to an interview and you have a wet spot, in your privates. And now it looks like you peed your pants because the coffee is leaking everywhere. So warm coffee is better to be held than cold coffee because the condensation sucks. Okay. Now, number 3, we're breaking out the science, John. I really didn't know where else to go because I'm such a
you haven't even mentioned the taste part yet, but that's fine.
Well, the taste is obviously superior. I mean, look, the taste is the taste. I mean, we look. I'm in it for the creamer anyway, right? I'm in it for the sugar, the creamer to get me going here. I need a boost because I gave up energy drinks. I have a son who likes to cry. He's only 4 months. That happens with babies, in case people didn't know. I need it, I'm really in it for the energy, the sugar, whatever gets me going. But number 3, we're gonna go the healthy route. And I have to read this off the prompter here because
just cite your sources,
I'm gonna cite my sources. According to scientific reports, that is the source. Scientific reports. It's a long article they put out. It was a study done in 2018. Hot coffee actually has higher level of antioxidants, which is healthier. And these oxidants are responsible for lowering the risk of cancer, heart disease, liver disease, and diabetes. I can't even say this with a straight face. But, John, who's going to debate science?
It's true. It's true.
How can you debate science?
You can't argue scientific facts at all. Science is science. So good points, I guess. I personally think hot coffee is disgusting. So let's go why I am on the ice coffee side of things here. One, it is refreshing. For whatever reason, I know you're talking about like the sweating of the cup. I'm not holding the cup long enough for it to sweat all around me. I'm getting that because I'm thirsty. It wakes me up in the morning. It's cold. You get that nice, refreshing cup of coffee. So number 1, it's refreshing. Anything you get a cold drink, like you said, it gets your body going. It rejuvenates you a little bit. So getting the iced coffee in there, perfectly fine. Number 2, what you call is maybe a problem with the ice melting, I call second drink. So what you do there is, you can drink a little bit of your coffee. Maybe you put it down, if you do have to go take care of your son or whatever like that, and you come back and the ice is melted a little bit. Now, it hasn't completely degraded the coffee that you have, but now you have a little bit more coffee than you had previously because the contents of it has risen. You get a little second drink out of the melted ice, gives it like a little bit of a refill, for which is perfectly fine. You can go ahead and still have that sip of coffee and you still taste it. You don't have to throw it in a microwave to reheat your drink. I can just put it in a fridge and keep it cold and keep it good. You're throwing things in a microwave, which I'm sure scientific studies have proven is bad for you. You have all those microorganisms things going through microwaves, right? That's what those things are, right? So it can't be good for you to be throwing things in a microwave. And number 3, the reason why I'm going to go with it is, to me, hot coffee is kind of bitter. So having the ice, to me, kind of helps a little bit of that bitterness. I know you're calling it watering down, but to me, I think it just kind of helps make the flavor a little bit better. And like you said, we're really in it for the flavors anyways. I usually go with some mocha milk. I know you're a big French vanilla guy anyway, so sure, the merits of the coffee bean, we don't really care about that. But to me, it's the refreshingness of the iced coffee. It's being able to put it in the fridge, be able to get maybe a little bit more as that ice melts, and then it helps with the overall like coffeeness of the flavor with the ice there. So for me, iced coffee is the best. And I live in New England. I know you're down in Florida now. You used to be in New York, but no, we have Dunkin' Donuts around here, and we're always drinking iced coffee, whether there's a blizzard, whether it's 100 degrees outside. It doesn't really matter. So it's also kind of a regional thing around here that iced coffee is 100% the way to go.
So I have a question, and this goes back to your second drink theory, because I haven't been able to get this out of my mind. Do you drink soda?
On the occasion, yeah.
Do you drink soda with ice?
Not necessarily. No, I actually drink a lot of like warm cans of soda or like room temperature cans of soda if I go approach that realm.
Well, have you ever had a cup of soda with ice? Because when I drink a cup of soda with ice that melts, I'm not calling it second drink. I'm calling it getting a new soda, because that is trash. And
but you're talking about two completely different beverages. So,
but I just don't think that I don't think the second drink can be like, I would not be able to get that in my head, like a second drink. I'll just go back and get a new one.
I'm not letting it wait for 4 hours, but like if I put it on a desk, maybe I'm gonna go play some Call of Duty, come back to my desk, my coffee's still there. Yeah, it's melted a little bit, but it hasn't really diluted it to the point where it's disgusting that I need a new coffee. And you get a little bit more because the ice is melted. The ice volume, water increases the amount of coffee there. So
I'm putting up a poll as soon as we go up, whether just hot. It's just going to say hot coffee
or iced coffee
or iced coffee. Yep.
Yeah,
I want to see what the actually I started. So my favorite drink I've gotten is from Dunkin', but it's hot. It's the French vanilla swirl. Specifically, gotta say the swirl because I didn't say swirl yesterday and it was terrible. And then I went.
You got the syrup. There's like two things you can get for it's like one's a syrup and one's I guess a swirl or something. Yeah.
You gotta
make sure you pick the correct versions.
You just gotta say swirl, and it's literally a whole new world.
Are you ordering off the app or are you ordering when you get there?
Didn't even know there was an app. I'm just pulling up after work.
Dude, you gotta get the app because you can get free coffees.
Say no more. Downloading as soon as this ends, the app will be downloaded.
Download the app. You can pre-order, so you don't have to wait in any lines, and you can accumulate points. They have discounted sandwiches if you're a breakfast sandwich guy from Dunkin's. Gotta get the app. Download the app.
This is key knowledge for us hot coffee drinkers.
There's like 45 Dunkin' Donuts around my house, so like I'm well versed in the Dunkin' Donuts app technology.
I have one on the way home from work that I've religiously been stopping at for the last.
Yeah, exactly. So you're on your way home from work.
Yep.
You pre-order it from the app. You go in. It's already sitting there waiting in the to-go section. You don't have to talk to anybody, which is tremendous. And then you can just grab your coffee and leave. So it all works.
Good to know. Thanks, John.
Welcome. Yeah. So, anyways. James is going to put the poll out. You let us know if you're an iced coffee or a hot coffee fan, and let us know whose side of the debate that you're on. Let us know if you've heard of second drink, because that's a real thing. It's out there.
What about science? Let us know if you heard about science.
Yeah. Let us know if you believe in science, because science is wrong sometimes.
Sure.
And you'll be all set there. But that wraps up today's 3-point play. That's James Grande. I'm John and Pemba. We'll catch you guys next time.